Hey everybody, it's Spicy Kai. Today I want to talk to you about what's happening with the case of Elijah Al-Amin. This young man right here is a 17-year-old who was taken from us by Michael Adams because he was playing rap at a Circle K in Peoria, Arizona. Today's topic is mostly about the man that took him from us, Michael Adams, and why he was not deemed seriously mentally ill, and the legal term for that used by the Arizona State Prison System was SMI. So I've done a little digging and found that this man should have been declared SMI and this young man would be still alive. So before we get started, please don't forget to hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please subscribe and hit the little notification bell so you get notified every time I drop a new video. Now let's get into the content. So I decided to do some research because based on what I can see, this man, Michael Paul Adams, is seriously mentally ill. And that's just on my little bit of research that I've done over the last couple of days. But then I bumped into 12 News I-Team, and they took it so much further, which drove me to do all types of searches about this man. So basically he has a very lengthy criminal history, and there are multiple reports where police officers described him as mentally disturbed. There's actually a box on the form they have to submit when they arrest someone, and they all checked the box that says mentally disturbed on multiple arrest reports. Okay, now what is seriously mentally ill? It's actually a designation that has to be given by either the courts or the prison system, or the probation department can actually give it to him. It's seriously mentally ill, and it's more commonly referred to as SMI. So if you're hearing these statements where they're saying he was not deemed SMI, that's what they're talking about, seriously mentally ill. So this is the Maricopa County Superior Court website, and this is the page that describes what they mean by seriously mentally ill, as in SMI. So let's take a look at this. Probationers who are diagnosed with a serious mental illness often require unique resources. SMI caseloads exist to supervise these individuals, for which the probation officers receive specialized training. But what I'm really trying to get to is the program characteristics. Now, had he been deemed SMI, these are the things that he would have gotten. So he would have gotten a special probation officer with close ties to the community and behavioral health clinics. That's what he needed. He would have been seen in mental health court, which means they would focus on his mental health, not just his criminal acts. Now, this is the most important part. Probation officers focus on ensuring probationers have access to needed services immediately following their release from incarceration, including housing, medication, and ongoing treatment. Now, from what I can tell so far, this man was homeless. That's why he was out there at 1-something in the morning with nothing whatsoever to do at Circle K. He didn't even go in the store and buy anything. He was there supposedly helping somebody fix their light on their car, and then all of a sudden he killed this boy, and then he didn't go nowhere. They found him walking the streets. He was homeless. They sent him out the prison doors with no medication. The man was on meds while he was in prison. Let me repeat that for people who are not getting it. As a prison inmate, he was taking medication 7 days a week. They released him from prison, homeless, and didn't give him one single solitary pill to hold him over until he went to go and get ongoing treatment. That is why Elijah Al-Amin is gone right now. Yes, this man is a piece of trash, but there is a whole group of systems that failed the man that actually took his life from us. And they need to be held accountable. This man should have gotten housing, medication, and ongoing treatment immediately following his release from incarceration.
It's unfortunate that the state, knowing that this is a person with diagnosed mental issues, was let out like this.
The 12 News I-Team reviewing Adams' lengthy criminal history, finding on multiple occasions police officers described him as mentally disturbed, yet prison officials did not consider him to be seriously mentally ill. Had he been given that designation, prison policy says he would not have been released from custody without every effort being made to assure continuity of care and a smooth transition to mental health services in the community.
Now let's get into who should have deemed Michael Adams SMI. Now basically, had he been deemed SMI, he would not have been out on the streets at 1 something in the morning, homeless, on July 4th, 2019. And Elijah Al-Amin would still be alive, bumping his beat in his paid off ride. Basically, the state of Arizona had 3 chances to get it right. First, in the court system. Now, to be realistic, I know how the criminal court system works from being a loved one. So I understand how someone like him could easily be considered a natural born F-up as opposed to having a serious mental health issue. I completely get that. However, that's at the court level. Judges see criminal defendants for just a couple of minutes at a time, and then there's months in between seeing them again. So they rely on others to give them reports when they make decisions about deeming defendants SMI. But the state prison doesn't have that same issue. The correctional officers, the counselors, teachers, doctors, nurses, the assistant warden, the warden, and other inmates all had to deal with this man 24 hours a day. That's an entire prison system that interacted with him daily. That means he has and this man has a case file that follows him into the prison and around the prison. So the prison officials there, they knew he was mentally disturbed, and they knew he was dangerous based on the things he did while he was at the prison. And because of that, they put him on meds. So they knew he was on meds the day they released him from prison. They knew, because they used the meds in order to manage him better. That's why they put him on the meds, so they can manage him better. But then they sent him out onto the streets of Phoenix with no meds. They didn't even give him enough for a couple of days. They sent him out into the streets of Phoenix with no meds, and somehow the public was supposed to learn how to manage him. Then you have the Maricopa County Probation Department. Aren't they awesome? Now, before he was released from prison, he'd already been assigned a probation officer. That PO should have read his case files, and he would clearly see, plain as day, that the man was taking meds for either mental health issues or behavioral reasons. Either way, he was on meds, and it was in his file that was sent to the probation office, okay? It was that PO's duty to make sure that that man would continue to take that medication once he got out. It was his job, her job, whoever, it was their job. That person should have also known that Michael Adams was going to be homeless when he got out. Now, how can you be on meds for mental problems and be homeless and not have a penny in your pocket when you're released from prison? and be expected to thrive. No, they set him up to fail. Provisions should have been made to make sure Adams got to that probation office that day. Now, if you listen to them, to the prison officials, they say they dropped him off somewhere. I forgot where they said they dropped him off, but it wasn't his home, and it wasn't that probation office. So when they realized he was homeless, which they obviously don't care, they should have taken him to the probation officer. And the probation officer should have cared enough about their local community to get him to a mental health facility immediately, if for no other reason than to get him back on his meds. That means this man was failed by the Arizona Department of Corrections and the Maricopa County Probation Department. And they also failed Elijah Al-Amin.
As the I-Team's Bianca Bono found, this is not the suspect's first violent incident. Right, Bianca?
Yeah, Mark Ribe, in one case, the suspect, Michael Paul Adams, assaulted a security guard in Tempe with a brick. And on multiple occasions, officials noted that Adams appeared mentally disturbed. Court records detailing the 27-year-old suspect's lengthy criminal history dating back to at least June of 2016. In September, Adams caught shoplifting from a Phoenix Walmart. The arresting officer noting that Adams was, quote, mentally disturbed. In May of 2017, Adams arrested again after violating his probation. Again, police say he was mentally disturbed. Then, in November of 2017, Adams attacking a security guard on Mill Avenue in Tempe, threatening him, then several other random people with a brick. In court documents, officials writing, quote, history of mental illness. It was after this violent incident that Adams was held at the Lower Buckeye Jail, which is where he assaulted a corrections officer in March of 2018. The following month, the court conducting a mental evaluation, the court deeming Adams competent, but adding he was enrolled with Mercy Maricopa Integrated Care, where he was receiving behavioral health treatment. After being sentenced to prison and transferred to Yuma, Adams ultimately released on July 2nd, less than 2 days before he's accused of brutally murdering Elijah Al-Amin. A spokesperson for the Department of Corrections saying in a statement that Adams was not designated seriously mentally ill.
And Bianca, does anything really stand out here?
Mark Ribe, yeah, Adams' inmate file is now giving us a look at his time behind bars. What's most notable is his disciplinary action while in custody, and one incident in particular sounds familiar. November 1st, 2018, less than a week into his official prison sentence, Michael Paul Adams verbally assaulting a corrections officer. According to prison records, Adams said he did it because, quote, I had no sleep. The transport officers were playing loud rap music. I was tired and irritated.
The Arizona State prison system ought to be ashamed of themselves. See, it's one thing for the judge to not get it. He didn't interact with them enough to really understand. He was going off of reports from the district attorneys, trying the cases, and probation reports to make his decisions. But the Arizona Department of Corrections, they have no excuse whatsoever. They know that this man should have been designated SMI before he left that prison. We should not expect an apology from them. It's never going to happen. But they can show that they care by just simply making some changes. They need to change their fear of labeling prisoners SMI. Now, I understand it, because I understand how the prison systems work, and I know that they're all about the money. And to deem a prisoner SMI would cost the state more money, because they would have to transport him and care about him. You know, all those things that I read in there where they give them immediate services, that would cost them money. So that's probably creating a fear of, let's just don't go around labeling them SMI, okay? Number two, they need to change the way they release their inmates who take psych meds while they're in custody. Adams should have been given a holdover supply of meds. And number 3, they need to change the prison to probation process. A homeless, carless, broke man should have been transported directly to the probation office. I repeat that. This man was homeless, he was carless, and he was broke. He should have been transported directly to the probation office, either by some prison officials or by a probation official. He should have had transportation and a handheld transportation directly to the probation office. Okay? Now what you're looking at now is the state prison record for Michael P. Adams, the man who took Elijah Al-Amin from us on July 4th, 2019. Here are the 3 cases that actually got him committed to state prison in Arizona. You have unlawful use or theft, and aggravated assault. So they do know that he's dangerous. The 2 thefts took place in 2016. One of them was that Walmart incident. And then 2018 is aggravated assault. That's why he ended up doing prison time. So on October 24th, 2018, he actually made it to prison, state prison. Now, these are the violations he caught while in prison. Now look at here. October 24th was when he was actually placed in custody of the Arizona State Prison System. On November the 1st, that's what, 8 days later, he got that disorderly conduct. That was when he was being moved to the next prison where he would be housed. And he made some sort of derogatory comment to one of the prison guards, and they wrote him up for disorderly conduct. But 12 days later, he got an assault on an inmate charge. Guilty. All of these were guilty. Okay? Major violations. You see right there. Major violation. Guilty. Then he did pretty good. He went a couple of months. And all the way in February, he got a tampering with the security and safety development. And then less than 13 days later, he got that again. That's basically, he assaulted a correctional officer. Okay? So, he cursed one out because he was playing rap. This is the officer that was transporting him to the prison. And the man was playing rap. And he said that he was playing the rap and it was really, really loud. And that's why he didn't get any sleep. And that's why he towed his ass off when they got to the prison. This is assault on an inmate. And then both of these 2 charges right here are assaults on correctional officers, as in layman people call prison guards. You hear me? These are his disciplinary actions. March 11th, August 14th, June 12th. They go on and on and on and on. Okay? They had to keep reclassifying this man. Okay, so here's the classifications right here. So when he got to the prison on October 30th, 2018, he was initially classified a class 2 custody risk. Custody risks come in 4 stages: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so if you end up in prison for something like texting and driving, and you've never been in trouble ever in life, the whole time you were in the county jail fighting your case, you never got in trouble, you'll end up in prison as a level 1 at some point. Most people come in at 2, so they can side eye you for a minute first. But there are cases where you will get in as 1. So he came in as a level 2 prisoner. Between October 30th and November 20th, he had messed up so much, he didn't even touch 3. He jumped from 2 to 4. That's the highest class there is. So they knew this man was dangerous. Look at here. He was scheduled to get out July the 4th. A month and a half earlier, on May 24th, they went and tried to reclassify him again. Let's review it again. Since it's time for him to get out, let's review again. And they reviewed him again 6 weeks before he got out and came to the conclusion he was still a custody risk of class 4. And you still thought he was safe out here with no medication. Lord have mercy. What is this prison system coming to?
The court has read the probable cause statement. I think there is no question as to the serious danger that the suspect represents to the community based on the facts in the matter. The current charge involves the unprovoked killing of a 17-year-old boy, a complete stranger in this case. This was done in a very public manner, done in a very violent manner, in the middle of a multiple witnesses present. The evidence is very strong, and the suspect has admitted the charge as well. It is my understanding he was just recently released from the Department of Corrections. He does have multiple prior felony convictions, history of violent behavior, as well as unprovoked attacks, as we saw here today, or yesterday rather.
I would, however, like to note that while what the state has said regarding my client's statement to the police is true, I would note that the Department of Corrections did, in fact, as the state mentioned, release my client 2 days ago. And knowing that he was to be set on mental health probation, knowing that he suffers from autism, ADHD, as well as potential other mental illnesses, they released him without medication, without a courtesy ride, or any other way to get to probation. They released him to the streets with no way to care for himself. So my client was released to the city of Phoenix in the state that Your Honor read about. So, yes, all right. My client with multiple prior felonies and a history of potentially unprovoked dangerous behavior with comments in those unprovoked dangerous prior acts, such as speaking about hearing voices and other mental illness indicators like that, was released with no medication. This is a failing on the Department of Corrections. This is easily foreseeable, and that's an issue.
So this attorney, J.C. Cotterell, has only read this man's case file. She's never really met him before. Somehow she knows that the man is mentally ill just by reading the same file that everybody else has been reading. Come on now, people, what's happening here? This attorney stated plain as day that he was supposed to be placed on mental health probation. Apparently it's in the file. So when the state prison says that he wasn't deemed SMI, that's because they failed to do their jobs. It says it right there in the file. He was supposed to be released on mental health probation.
And that policy goes on to say that seriously mentally ill inmates who pose a threat to themselves or others could potentially be involuntarily committed.
Yeah, the Arizona Department of Corrections really failed their community. If they had done their job, all they had to do was designate this man as seriously mentally ill, and none of this would have ever happened. To the people of Arizona, it's time to demand change. It's your right, it's your responsibility. This should never ever happen again. Thanks for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and by all means, please share this video. Spicey out.